Committee. I thank you for the opportunity to testify today on amending substitute House Bill 64, the FY16-17 operating budget of the state of Ohio. Governor Case appreciates the time and the effort both chambers have given to development of the budget since the introduction of the executive budget proposal in February. Both versions of the bill reflect a strong commitment to the key elements of that proposal: reducing personal income tax and small business taxes to continue improving Ohio's economic competitiveness, ensuring that Ohio's school children are ready for college and careers with record state funding to help build a world-class education system and provide more resources overall to those school districts with the least capacity to raise revenues locally. Continuing implementation of our nationally recognized performance-based funding formula for higher education, including provisions for restraining tuition policies on state-supported campuses, prioritization of scholarship programs, and general system efficiencies and reforms. Building on the momentum of Medicaid reform and expansion begun in Governor Case's first term, which greatly improved the design and delivery of the Medicaid program, as well as its underlying administrative structure. We now look forward to working with this committee to reconcile the differences among the various versions of the bill. To begin that effort today, I will present the administration's revised GRF revenue estimates, as well as the latest Medicaid projections. I will also review the condition of the General Revenue Fund as FY 2015 comes to a close, and offer the administration's perspective on the budget framework for the Conference Committee. The revenue forecast that I will present today contains revisions from the forecast that accompanied the executive budget. These revisions result from two factors. First, OBM has updated national and Ohio economic forecasts from both the Global Insight and Moody's forecasting firms. Second, we have an additional 4 months of GRF revenue data, including the income tax filing season results for tax year 2014. Both of these factors have an impact on the revised forecasts for the budget period. Turning to the economic forecast, let me begin by briefly discussing the latest economic forecasts that OBM has used for the revenue and Medicaid caseload forecast, and how they differ from the forecasts that were used to build the executive budget. In general, the revised forecasts are substantially the same as the forecasts that underpin the executive budget, but the negative first quarter for calendar 2015 and the mixed indicators we've seen so far in the second quarter have led to lower growth forecasts in the near term. The expected acceleration in growth is now projected to occur somewhat later in the forecast period than was originally thought. As I just mentioned, U.S. GDP growth in the first quarter is estimated to have been negative 0.7%, third negative quarter of the current expansion. Forecasters currently expect the second quarter growth to be somewhat better. For example, the Atlanta Federal Reserve Bank's GDP Now forecast for the second quarter growth is about 2%. However, even 2% growth is relatively weak for a post-war recovery or expansion period. Despite the slow first half, most forecasters, including Global Insight, are predicting that growth will pick up in the second half of calendar year 2015. There are recent signs of strength in the economy, including a robust May employment report that saw an additional 280,000 jobs at the national level, improvement in housing indicators such as starts, permits, and prices, very strong May auto sales, and improved overall May retail sales. This spat of recent data gives OBM confidence that a second half rebound is in store, and that the updated forecast for fiscal year 16 and 17 have a solid basis. Nevertheless, we must keep in mind that risks in the forecast remain. A recent conference call with members of the Governor's Council of Economic Advisors highlighted two areas of risk to bear in mind in constructing the revenue and caseload forecasts. First, international trade. As I mentioned in both houses in my testimony earlier this year, the risk to the national Ohio economies from the strong dollar, which hurts U.S. exports and encourages the purchase of imports rather than domestically produced goods in both consumer and investment sectors. There's also a risk from other areas that could hurt U.S. exports, such as a sharp slowdown in Chinese demand or another EU slowdown prompted by events such as a Greek debt crisis. Second, monetary policy risk. There is concern that when the Federal Reserve finally begins renormalizing short-term interest rates, the financial market reaction may be worse than expected. As an example, if there's an asset bubble in real estate or mortgage-backed securities such as existed before the last recession, it will probably be evident only in hindsight after its burst. Another monetary policy risk is that inflation will accelerate faster than anticipated and that the Fed will have to raise rates more quickly, leading to bigger negative impacts on output and employment. The May 2015 Global Insight baseline forecast for U.S. and Ohio is literally thousands of variables. As usual, OBM has condensed those forecasts into a table that contains few variables that either summarize the broad economy or key drivers of revenue estimates for major taxes. Those forecasts for fiscal years 15 through 17 are in the table on page 4. Note that although steady growth is presumed in the baseline forecast, FY16 growth is generally slightly weaker than in the November forecast, which is the basis for the executive budget. Ohio retail sales growth is lower by 0.8 of a point, and I will revisit that in my revenue estimate, which I will get to right now. The revised FY 2015-17 baseline revenue forecast, it's contained in attachments 1 and 2 in the testimony, is built on the Global Insight May 2015 baseline forecast for U.S. and Ohio. Of course, the forecast revisions also take into account how revenues have actually performed in FY15. Based on both new economic forecasts and the actual performance in fiscal year 15, Conference Committee tax revenue forecast is higher than the executive budget Blue Book estimates by $252 million in 15, $213 million in 16, and $180 million in 17. Almost all of the upward adjustment in 15, and more than all of the upward adjustment in 16 and 17 is due to higher income tax forecasts. OBM has revised its income tax forecast upward based on the strong performance of non-withheld income tax revenues in FY15. Other tax revenue estimates are on the whole revised upward only slightly or revised downward. After 11 months of FY15, income tax withholding collections are $2 million above the estimate, or a barely perceptible 0.03%. This extremely low forecast variance follows forecast differentials for withholding of 0.9% and 13 and 0.4% in 14. It would seem that both the forecast of the explanatory variables in the model that OBM uses for forecasting withholding are performing well. Unfortunately, forecasting non-wage income and non-withheld income revenues is a much more difficult exercise. And our forecast variances there tend to be much larger. After 11 months of 2015, non-withheld income revenues are $302 million over the original July 2015 estimate. And if June variance were 0, we would finish FY15 $223 million over the revised estimate made in February for the executive budget. We will not have any data on tax year 2014 income by type for Ohio taxpayers until federal return data is made available about a year from now. We actually do not yet have data on tax year 2013, although we do expect that soon. OBM has tried to estimate the underlying non-wage income that has resulted in the FY15 variance and then make conservative but reasonable projections about how that income will grow in the next 2 tax years. These forecasts drive our forecast of non-withheld income. The result of this exercise is that the income tax forecasts are revised upward by $239 million, about 2.9% in 15, $268 million or 3% in 16, $219 million, 2.3% in FY17. OBM has also made upward adjustments relative to the executive budget forecast for the auto sales and the commercial activity tax. You may recall, in the course of my earlier testimony about the executive budget, I stated OBM was holding FY16 auto sales tax forecast flat with FY15 estimates, reflecting the belief that auto sales had been running above trend and would have to moderate. That assumption is no longer part of the outlook. New auto sales have remained very strong in the second half of 15. The Global Insight baseline forecast calls for a national average sales above 17 million units in both FY16 and FY17. OBM has revised the auto sales tax forecast upward by 1.8% in 16 and 3% in FY17.